Well, welcome to this week's episode of the Universal Magic Podcast. My name is John. I am one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Jeff.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. How's it going?
Yes. And Alyssa.
Happy
Of course,
5th of
gotta nail that,
July.
right?
Yeah, 5th
Yes,
of July.
it is the 5th of July. And we have a guest agent with us. Her name is Julie. Julie, how's it going? Oh, and I muted her mic. Oh, man. I'm just batting 1,000 tonight. Anyway, Julie's been an agent with Moments of Magic Travel for how long?
Since 2019. So 4 years.
Awesome.
Woo.
So we'll dive into more of what her story is and everything. But tonight, we're actually going to talk about, I don't want to say it's a serious topic, but it is something that a lot of families consider when they plan a trip to Disney, and that's Disney with allergies. So, guys, I always struggle with this, but where do we begin? Like, I can never nail the transition, but anyway.
John, you hit it on the head. I mean, there's a lot of families who are not lucky enough to just be able to eat anytime, anywhere, anything. And they have to plan, whether they're home locally or going to Disney, they have to plan things. And I have found over the years, being a health and fitness enthusiast, I choose to eat clean and healthy a lot of times, especially when I'm training. I've learned, that the chefs at Disney, the cooks at Disney in their quick service are amazing when it comes to that. A lot of times when you're either at a quick service restaurant or you're at a table service restaurant and you explain what you need, a chef will come out and talk to you, find out exactly what the situation is. And 9 times out of 10, they'll either be able to prepare something for you from their existing menu, or they'll prepare something for you, that's cooked away from everything else and can ensure you guys have safety. So that is a big deal. And it's something that's important to a lot of families. And I get asked that as an agent a lot, from some of the families who have a child has a nut allergy or gluten allergy or whatever. How does that work? And it's important for people to understand and know that.
So Julie, what can you elaborate for us? So we brought you on because you have is it your son that has an allergy?
Yes, my 16-year-old son has a peanut allergy. Our first experience with Walt Disney World was in 2013. He was 6 at the time, and we couldn't even eat at Texas Roadhouse because of the peanut dust in the air. We were concerned about him. The one night we ate there, and his eyes were almost swollen shut by the time we left. It was like dig the Benadryl out and hope and pray we don't have to run to the emergency room. And we're actually blessed because he's actually almost outgrown that allergy at this point, 10 years later. But some people, if they even walk into a place like that, they're in the emergency room hoping their child's not going to die. Allergies are so serious. So when we went in 2013, we had the most amazing experience with the chefs and with dining. Walt Disney World is so amazing in helping to work with children and other folks with allergies or even celiac disease where they can't have gluten. Our experience, when I made my dining reservations, I just put in, because it asks right on there if you have an allergy and what the allergy is. So we did. On every dining reservation, I put, yes, there's a peanut allergy. And everywhere we went to dine, they would come to us and verify that there was a peanut allergy. They had it stamped right on the receipt that there was a peanut allergy. And then the chef would actually come and talk to us. I was just amazed. Actually, the one that stood out the most in my mind was when we went to dine at Boma at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And the chef not only came to our table, but he tried to explain where things were at the buffet. And I was lost, it was our first time there. And he said, you know what, I'm just going to take you. And he literally took me by the hand through the entire buffet. This is safe. This isn't safe. This could potentially be cross-contamination with peanuts. So that I knew exactly where to guide my 6-year-old son as far as what he could or couldn't eat. It was really
amazing. I have like chills hearing that. That's awesome.
It was awesome.
So I don't have a peanut allergy, but I have a similar allergy. I have a sulfa allergy, so I can't drink wine. I can't do anything like that. And when I go to some of these places like California Grill that have these amazing steaks, they cook them with wine reduction. So it's really hard. And like, I feel that sometimes like the chefs like kind of overblow the allergies. Like I have a higher tolerance than I did when I was, 13, but still, it's good that they're aware, because it could be like, I believe it was Tony's Town Square. I had the steak there and they cooked it, and I didn't realize it had a wine reduction, and I had to go to the guest services and go to the medical area and get Benadryl, just because I was having a reaction. So it is great that they take things seriously. And to some people, not necessarily some people, but I do think that, like, sometimes it's a little, I don't know, it can be a bit much, especially for when people who are comfortable with their allergy. But man, peanut allergies are something you have to really take seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you just brought up a point I wanted to kind of dive into this episode was, how do you feel confident going into this? How do you advocate for yourself or your family member? Like, what, based on y'all's experiences, like, I have a gluten intolerance, but I'm not celiac. And so more often than not, I will just look at the menu and figure it out. And I'm okay if there's like cross contamination, but I don't always have to speak to a chef unless it's like a very limited menu. So, but how do you guys, when you, like, again, it could be life or death or a reaction where you need medication, how do you advocate for yourself when you need that?
And I think that Julie's situation's a bit different than mine, and because mine is more of a preference. It's wanting to eat clean and avoid gluten or certain foods that I know, like when I'm training and stuff. And Julie's is a life and death situation with her son, or at least it was. But they both have this commonality. There's so many cool tools. Julie, you mentioned one of the most important ones. When you're making an ADR, you can list exactly what you want, what you have in the special requests in the allergy section, to where when those reservations get called as you're standing in that restaurant in Magic Kingdom, they already know about it. They're already asking about it. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have somebody visit you at your table without even asking, because you use these pre-tool, plans, these tools that are at your access. There's a lot of people that don't realize that. And they get to the restaurant, they make one on the fly, but they have just as much ability to benefit, just by mentioning it and by saying it. So, mine comes with just knowing the lay of the land with Disney. But for the average person watching our podcast, they don't know that. When you're going in and making these ADRs, put all the information up in there up front. It's going to make things a ton easier. And if you're not a planner, you like to walk up to a restaurant, which you've been able to do lately here at Disney World. You've been able to get them right on the fly. If you're able to do that, that's just your jam. Just make sure you say something to your server or to the people that you're making the reservation with right at the table, or even in the app. If you're doing it while you're walking around Magic Kingdom or Epcot, put it in the special notes, because they're, like Julie said, they are wonderful with preempting anything and trying to avoid anything. And they will cook that food totally separate, from everything else.
Yeah.
Your perspective, Julie.
I agree. And we have had a couple of times where we've done a walk up, and when we did, they asked us before they even put us at our table, is there an allergy?
Yeah.
And as soon as you say peanut allergy, they stamp that receipt, and same experience as if we had done this as an ADR.
Yep.
That's awesome. I think the mobile check-in nowadays too will also double check.
Yep.
Too.
They do.
Have that
They
in
do.
there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is something that, go ahead, Alyssa.
No, I was gonna ask Julie, if you mentioned Boma as like a buffet and like going through and the chef helping you. So I'm part of this Facebook group for Disney with Allergies, and some people said that even though they're assured that something like that doesn't have cross contamination, obviously there's people going up to that who could cross contaminate things. Have you ever had to like navigate that or felt uneasy, or any like thoughts on that?
I didn't feel uneasy, just because at the time the chef was so good with us. And now since that time, my son's allergy has lessened significantly. I mean, I'm certainly not going to sit him down and give him a bucket of peanuts, but at the same time, he's at the point now where if the package says may contain cross-contamination with peanuts, it's not the end of the world for him. It's just he can't have a peanut itself. So I really don't have experience with that uneasiness that you're describing. And I do know that back in 2013, when that chef took us through, he did explain that is a possibility, that with people using the buffet, that there could be some cross-contamination, and you do need to watch out for that. But they tried to keep all of the items that are more peanut related kind of on a separate side of the buffet, as opposed to the things that were not peanut related, so that cross-contamination would be a lot lower.
That's cool. I have heard that they have separate fryers, separate pans, separate things that have not like touched things with the high allergens or whatever. So if you are worried, like you could probably get the exact same thing in the buffet and just have to wait a little longer while they prepare it separately.
And that's also true. And the chef did say if there was anything that he didn't like, he would be happy to make him something separate for him. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sweet.
And kind of speaking to what Jeff said about eating clean, kind of what they do. And I go through the same thing when I'm there. A lot of the things too, and this is kind of John's pro tip of the day, I guess, is like, if you want to see the ingredient list, you can actually go, and they have a book of, which, so like if you're trying to eat extremely low carb and cut sugars and all that stuff and avoid peanuts, if you have a peanut allergy, they actually have like a huge book. Like I remember going to Pico's Bills and just marveling at all the stuff that they had for everything. And it was just kind of like, okay, this is cool. I guess I can just do like taco meat and whatever, and not really worry about it. I mean, there's a whole discussion to be had maybe at a later date about, doing, different diet lifestyles at Disney World and whether or not it's something, that you really need to sweat because you're on vacation, but that's another topic for another day. But
well, actually, to add on to that, so again, I'm gluten intolerant. So for the most part, I could tolerate something, but like later, I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. My stomach really, really hurts. So, but you, God, where was my thinking going? You were just bringing up
off the tracks like old John here.
Gluten intolerant. Let's see if that helps refresh your memory. Gluten intolerant.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so, but last year we went on a trip and I was very strict on no gluten whatsoever. I talked with the chefs at every time. I looked at the menu, the allergy list and everything like that. And I have to say I had so much more energy to get me through the day until the fireworks. Like we did park open to park close and I felt amazing. So like, I just got back from Disney World a couple days ago and I did not do that. I ate all the gluten. And I think I was in bed at like 7:30 almost every night because I was so tired. So I already learned my lesson for the next time, because like, again, they do so many good things. Like their gluten-free waffles at their breakfast taste just like the normal waffles. So like, and they don't cost anything else. I feel like I have to go to the grocery store and spend at least double the amount on gluten-free waffles. But Disney, they're going to just charge me the same price no matter what. So which is incredible. Even on the quick service, I go to the gluten side, it's the exact same price as like if I was to order the regular one. So
Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I kind of had a big announcement because right after this episode premieres, we're going to have not one, but two videos of, we have something new rolling out on the channel that features Miss Alyssa over here. So we're very excited for that. I spent a lot of time on that this weekend, but this is very exciting. So stay tuned. Yeah. Anyway. So
side note. So, but yeah,
side note.
So I think, I say that I didn't want to do this, but then I even found out afterwards, I did the fireworks dessert party. This was one of the reasons I was like, I just want to go enjoy all the desserts. Had I realized beforehand, I found out shortly after that if I had let them know ahead of time, they would have prepared an entire thing of a lot of the same stuff, but gluten-free. Yep. And so that was the tip that I learned this past week. And so I didn't want to miss out, but I wouldn't have been. So, and I've had other experiences like Ohana breakfast. I really wanted their like toffee pudding cake, whatever it is. And I didn't get it, but they brought me my own like cinnamon donut thing just for myself. And it was gluten-free. And so like they tried their best to make up for it. And it was actually delicious. So I didn't feel like I was missing out. So I don't know if you guys, like, it's hard. Like I love my sweets and everything, but I love how good I feel when I don't indulge in that. So, and again, maybe Julie, to you, like your son, like maybe sometimes if he did go through with like some of those cross-contamination things, maybe he felt kind of off, not full-blown reaction or anything, but I don't know if you ever had times like that too.
We have a lot of times after eating out. We have one restaurant in particular, we finally put 2 and 2 together that they were using refined peanut oil. which technically isn't supposed to be a problem, but every time he'd have a horrible stomach ache and come home vomiting, and it was like,
Oof.
Yep. And we didn't even put two and two together until like after 3 or 4 visits to that restaurant. This was not Disney, by the way. But I'm glad you brought up the dessert party, because that was another experience that we had where we told them that there was a peanut allergy. They brought out, I mean, I'm not even joking, like a dinner plate size piled with desserts that were all peanut free specifically for my son. He just had his own dinner plate size dessert party right there.
That's awesome.
Oh my.
That's awesome.
Big pile of dessert right there for him. So
one of the tips, and I guess it's another pro tip from us, is that I learned this from one of my families who has a child with a peanut allergy. They actually laminated a card of all the ingredients that they have to avoid. And so whenever they go anywhere locally in their town, or when they went to Disney, they just gave the cook this card. And that made things immensely easier for the cooks at Disney and all that, because they're well prepared. They don't have to ask a bunch of questions. These are the things that my son has to avoid. And he could basically look at that and say, okay, I know how to prepare the food. Or if it's a buffet, I know how to go back there and bring out food that's not cooked with any of these things. So that helps these cooks at Disney a ton more, or even if you're just going out in public, general public too. If you have that card and you present it to them, that's another tip that I learned from my families. I mean, knock on wood, thank God I don't have that situation in my own family, but we as agents are kind of adopted as one of their family members and trusted to help plan these trips. It's just something great as our viewers watch here to, if you have an allergy in your family, get that card, bring it with you to Disney as well, and it just makes things a lot easier and quicker.
Speaking of planning trips, and I'm sorry, Alyssa, for cutting you off on the bottom here, but we are brought to you by momentsofmagictravel.com. So all of our content, even though it's blocking the screen, is brought to you by that. And so we hope you check out momentsofmagictravel.com for your free, no obligation quote. And I did not put that in the beginning of the episode, so shame on me.
So though, as agents, having done gluten-free myself, it's easier for me then to make recommendations on restaurants and stuff on what has more variety in their menus or really good modifications or stuff. So maybe we can each name one restaurant we know of that either has like a bigger menu or you've had good experiences with, just like with the modification of stuff. So can you guys think of what that one or two restaurants would be?
Well, I know for me, my favorite restaurant, my family's favorite restaurant is Via Napoli and the Italy Pavilion in Epcot, because we just love their pizza. We have went with families before who were either gluten-free or that, nut allergy. And I know that they are wonderful for how they can have special crusts for their pizza, special ways to prepare their pastas. So I know for a fact that Via Napoli is a really great user-friendly or gluten-free, allergy-friendly restaurant. If you like pizza, maybe we should shift it to what kind of foods do we all like. My family loves pizza, so we go to Via Napoli. It's like mandatory on every trip. And, I always say to my kids, hey, don't you guys want to go somewhere else? And then I get there and I'm so happy we came here because of the pizza. But that's a restaurant that I, just is close to my heart. And we've had to use that card for allergies on a few occasions with some of the people that we've traveled with. So I know that's mine right there.
Alyssa, what do you got?
Oh, mine might surprise you. My favorite actually was Cinderella's Royal Table. So because it was funny. It forced me to try some new appetizers that I normally would not have picked, but they were probably my favorite meals that I've ever had but one of the favorite meals I've ever had on Disney property. And then their desserts were all, at least at the time I went, I don't know if they still are, they were all gluten-free. So I could choose any of them. So they had like their cheesecake was like the cheesecake without the crust, right? And then they had like gluten-free graham crackers or something like that. And then like all of their entree options, like I think but one were gluten-free. So I was pleasantly and very happily surprised that Cinderella's Royal Table had. So because you're paying a pretty penny, and I don't want to be like limited to like one for each app entree and dessert. So I was actually very happy about that.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever done overrated breakfast or overrated restaurants. I think we might have to add that to the list of topics. But honestly, for me, the best ones that I've had are Topolino Terrace. I haven't had dinner there yet, but like every time we've had a really good experience, especially even the steak is cooked with, wine and stuff like that. So the other one, again, I'm a snob for California Grill. I love California Grill. It's literally my favorite meal on property. Anytime you can get a 36-ounce steak, it's worth it. Granted, 12 ounces of that is the bone, but yeah. And then Julie, what do you have?
I've got two. Breakfast is a must for us at Chef Mickey's. The kids love it there, and they feel like they can get pretty much whatever they want. They fill up nicely at breakfast there. And then dinner, believe it or not, be our guest. Everybody loves the food there.
Yes.
And I have actually 5 kids now, and 3 of them are in that extremely picky phase, but they're always eating well at Be Our Guest. So, yeah.
Side note to St. Chapek, bring back Be Our Guest breakfast, please. That's all I want.
And as quick service, please, not just
not just prefix.
Yeah.
So St. Chapek, we're listening to you. Or no, St. Iger. My God, St. Iger.
Here is another thought to beyond Walt Disney World. Do you guys have any experiences with trying to eat allergen-free, clean eating on like Disney Cruise Line, Disneyland, anything else? Because again, my Disney cruise was another one of those that I said screw it, and I just ate all the gluten. So.
I've traveled with the family before that was, the same family I mentioned. They're good friends of ours that has a nut allergy. And they were just as wonderful on Disney Cruise Line as they were Disney World, in knowing what to serve and automatically bringing out menus and food options. Cruise lines are accustomed to giving you personal service, right? The great thing about Disney Cruise Line, and I'm sure other cruise lines are very similar, is that you have the same, head waiter and assistant waiter, and the same people following you from dining room to dining room. So they get to know you over that course of that 3-day cruise, 4-day cruise, 5 or 7. And they just know what your allergies are or what your preferences are, right down to the drink that you're drinking. They'll have it on the table when you arrive. So I know for our family that we were with, they always had the gluten-free or the peanut-free, the allergy-friendly menus for us on the table every time we came, and the options for it. They prepare things every single night for those families, and just like they would, the dishes of the night for the rest of the families. There's certain things that they have ready for allergy friendly, families as well. So I know it was wonderful, and even going into Cabanas, if you guys have been on a Disney Cruise Line ship, the open air buffet, there's gluten-free. They even say it up there. They have a little card on it, gluten-free. You can ask the chef, what food's on here. Typically with Disney Cruise Line, they'll either have them on the cards itself describing what it is, or maybe a specific color card would tell them what foods have gluten-free or peanut-free allergies. I say gluten-free because that one's the more common one that people are asking about. They really cater to that. The peanut ones you may have to ask about and such. But I found the experience to be just as easy and as enjoyable on the cruise line as Disney World. I don't know if anybody else had the same experience, but we're kind of cruise line nerds, with Disney. So I've gotten used to that, and we've been on a couple cruises with this family. So just seeing that firsthand.
I am immensely excited because my first Disney cruise is in October, and we've been doing a deep dive in our house over, what to expect as far as dining. And like, I take heart in the fact that, like Alyssa told me, if I want more than one steak at night, I'm gonna eat more than one steak at night. So like, hey, bring it.
Well, so
I am so excited for this.
This makes me think. So, like, let's say on the Wish, let's say your first night is in Arendelle and you had an amazing steak without the allergens and all that. And then the next night you're like iffy on the steak option. Maybe you're going to Marvel and you're like, I just don't know about what it's got in there. I don't know how I'm gonna like it. Can I ask my waiter for the steak I had last night in Arendelle? Technically you can. You might have to wait a little bit longer for it, but might be worth it to know it's already something you really enjoyed and something you felt good afterwards on. You didn't have a reaction. You felt fine. So that could be a pro tip too. So if you have something you liked in one dining area on most cruise ships, then more often than not you can request that again, especially for if you have the allergy. You just might have to wait a little bit longer.
Yep.
Yeah.
For it.
Yep.
So, but yeah. So Julie, your first cruise on the Wish too.
It is my first cruise in October. Yes, I am super excited.
You guys are going to have a blast.
We have so much stuff planned as far as like for content for the channel. It's going to be incredible. I know we're going to get Alyssa at Hollywood Horror Nights. Come hook or crook. Yeah. So, hey, what did you want? You wanted a dinner at Enchanting, right? Like we can make that happen.
Yeah, and
we can expense that.
I still said it was amazing.
Okay. We'll get on that. Leslie!
Okay. I had another question. My brain is not working today. I think the holiday yesterday totally threw me off. Like it feels like Monday, but it's Wednesday. I remember I was going to ask parties, after hours events. My favorite part of the Christmas party was going to all the cookie stops and everything. Again, I didn't care about the gluten at the time, but I felt pretty crummy by the end of the night. So I probably should have. I don't know, Julia, is that something you've experienced with the peanut allergy, or Jeff with your friends or anything?
I don't. With the stops, no, we haven't, because we were so busy seeing all the rides and everything and the fireworks that we really didn't. For the
it just wasn't
I haven't had a personal experience with it, Alyssa, but I just know from families who have went to the Christmas and the Halloween parties, you just have to ask them, for the gluten-free or the peanut-free allergy options, and they have other snacks available to you, and they may even have them just, behind the table to pull them out. Yeah, they're catering to the 99% of the people who don't have the allergies, whether it be the cookies or the candy. You just have to ask and advocate for that, because they're not gonna not have that for the Halloween and Christmas parties as well, especially being so popular.
Yeah, I did hear, I don't know how true this is, I did hear a complaint last year. So you're supposed to get like a card or something that identifies you when you go to the stops, just to make it easier for them to hand you, so if it's the Halloween party, they just hand you like a bag of allergy-free candy, or if it's the Christmas party and they hand you the cookie or the treat, whatever it is. And I did hear that they some nights ran out of the allergen-free ones, probably like midnight. Not midnight, but like mid-evening. And so if that is a concern of yours, is something you really want to do, I heard an encouragement to do that first or towards the beginning of the party, just in case, so you don't miss out. But I don't know how true that is, but I saw it quite a few different times in different groups that I'm in.
I bet there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, they're trying to take care of a small subset of people. They just don't know how much food to have on hand. It could be a night where 9 times out of 10 they have more than enough, right? And then that one night they don't. That's a great point. Just advise maybe our families, or if you're watching, go get your fun foods early. Make sure that they have it early. Good point. That's a really good point.
So on that, have you guys ever had any, not necessarily negative experiences with this, but any that could have been better? Anything that was more difficult?
I don't know about Julie, but me personally have never had a situation with any chef that I encountered for my own personal preferences, or with the family that we travel with, that had some specific allergies, where they didn't bend over backwards to try to make it really enjoyable, or just as enjoyable for everybody else that was enjoying the other food. I have not had a bad experience. I'm sure there's been some bad experiences out there. I just can't say that me and the families I've traveled with has ever really had one. I know that Disney just tries to do everything they can to make sure that there's not somebody who's going to have a allergic reaction, and is just as enjoying their meal just as much as everybody else there. So I personally can't attest anything negative, but I'm sure there's probably been situation or two where, and it could just been from a lack of information. They didn't disclose enough information or whatever. But I just don't see how there would be a really bad situation if you were really upfront and maybe even gave them that card, Alyssa, of what was they're allergic to, so they can help out. Julie, you ever had a bad experience?
No, not personally. From a dietary standpoint, it's all been super impressive in my opinion. And so any clients that I have traveling that do have any allergies, you know, they've never had any bad experiences that I'm aware of. But like you said, I'm sure there's that occasional time where something comes up. I'm not aware of any of those.
Yeah, I'm sure that's, you know, it's a big reason why John and Alyssa, those chefs come out to you. You know, they are, you know, this isn't their first rodeo. They know the questions to ask that you're not even thinking about. You know, they know those questions because they deal with it, I bet you, several times a day. You know, because think about the vast amount of people who travel into those restaurants and the turnover of those tables and restaurants. They deal with it, I'm sure, at least once, if not several times every shift. So they know the questions to ask, and the more prepared you are, makes it so much easier on them.
Absolutely.
And I honestly think that, like, going back to one of my earlier points, that how, like, sometimes when I go to a restaurant, I know what I want. If, like, it doesn't really impact and my wife, you know, slips up and says sulfa, you know, they do take it seriously regardless of what you get, you know. So it's something that, like, and like, I think it was Space 220. Like, I knew the steak didn't have anything really extravagant, but they said any allergies, and I wasn't thinking. I'm like, sulfa. And so the chef came out and I'm like, I'm just getting the steak, just, you know, I'm good. Like, you know, and it's great that they do that, but it's kind of like, all right, just give me the steak. So
you brought up Space 220. I went there within like 2 months of its opening, and I had asked to speak to the chef, and the waiter was like, "Oh, I'll take care of it." And then he just left. And I really, looking back, wish I'd advocated for myself, because I had wanted to ask if there was like a modification they could have done on one of the appetizers that I had ordered. And it said the waiter just put it in, and I just got it gluten free as it was. Like, but I had wanted to see about like the crackers and stuff. Was there another option for that, just to add the crunch that I know that's why they put it on the item anyway? And so, like, looking back, I would definitely, if you have a waiter who's a little dismissive of it, to like emphasize and to say, no, really, I would like to speak to a chef.
That is such a good point, because one of the things that we may or may not realize, if you're the average person going to Disney World, not every Disney restaurant is owned by Disney. And the one you mentioned, Space 220, that actually happens to be owned by the Patina Group. You know, and the Patina Group, they own other restaurants on property. I think they own Via Napoli. You know, they own other restaurants on property. So that waiter or waitress being dismissive just might have been their internal company policy, and it's not a Disney policy. So, you know, that's a really, you know, we might not even meant to make a point there, but that there's a lot of restaurants on property that are now owned by Disney, especially when you go to Disney Springs. You know, Disney Springs is every chain. You know, there's a lot of chains down there, which, you know, it's fine if you want some comfort food, things, you know. I personally like the restaurants I can't get anywhere else when I go to Disney World. You know, I try to avoid the chains. It's harder at Disney Springs because they're all, you know, but
they're all
that's
good to be
a good
chains.
point. Yeah. They all are, exactly, in some way.
So I had put that Disney World with Food Allergies group. I had posted saying we were recording this episode, if anyone had things we could maybe touch on, or questions that they had. And so I had two that I wanted to share with you guys and see.
Sure.
One of them was, is there a snack, a food, a something that you have not found an allergy friendly alternative to that you wish Disney would do? So their suggestion was that they had they wanted a dairy-free, soy-free, and coconut-free Dole Whip. Apparently that's not an option.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys think of anything.
I think when you get into ice cream, it's very hard to be dairy-free, or you know, that was going to be my thing that I wish they would somehow figure out, is the ice cream situation, to have a dairy-free, allergy-free. But I know that's very difficult, because what is ice cream? It's milk in so many different ways, you know.
You have to do like a sorbet or something, right? Like,
I know that's the number one thing that I get asked too from my allergy families as an agent is, you know, we have a dairy allergy. Is there any ice cream on property that is dairy free? And I don't officially know the answer to that. To be honest, I've yet to find any place anywhere that has dairy-free, soy-free ice cream.
Mhm.
So ice cream would be the number one thing that I get that I think they're still having a hard time finding an alternative for.
Because what
Yeah.
is Disney known for? They're known for their Dole Whip. So of course you want that.
And they're Mickey
so-
bars. I mean,
Mhm.
geez, how can you
Yeah.
not go to Disney and have a Dole Whip on one night and a Mickey bar on another night? I mean, you can go to
Exactly.
you can go to
Mickey bars are
Costco and
gluten-free.
Sam's now and get a box of the Mickey bars.
Mhm.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, right. I may or may
They're
not have a
smaller,
box of
though.
those in my refrigerator right now.
They are smaller. They are not park size. So
True.
there's a reason
They
to
are
plan your
definitely
trip.
not park
with
size.
But
most
they're also
men
not
to
park
travel.
priced either. They're also not
Yeah,
park
exactly.
priced either.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yep.
I think the last
So-
time I
Okay.
got a Mickey bar, it was like $8 for one of them now.
Okay, and then any
Shave
other thoughts
back.
on that before I jump to the other question they had? No? Okay. So then the other question was related to any tips for preparing your own food to bring into the park. So they had tried before, they'd keep an ice pack at the front of like check-in, but they'd have to stop at the check-in every day and then put it in their cooler or take it with them to the park. So any of you guys have experienced taking your own food in, whether allergens or not, and what tips you have for that?
So, Julie, I actually sometimes bring in a powered cooler. You get a lot of them with USB. You can keep these things cool now. So that's like my pro tip is that you can actually get some of these Yeti coolers or Arctic coolers that are actually going to cool the whole time you're there, and they're run off of USB power. Those little
That's
power
cool.
banks you charge your phones with. So you can, and they're relatively small. They don't look much different than a regular backpack the average person has on their back. You might hear a little fan if you're in line with somebody to keep it cool, but I know some of my families who travel with allergies and they're really scared about the food do come in with their own food. And the one thing that's great about Disney is that, you can bring in pretty much anything you want food wise and drink wise, short of alcohol and glass containers, but you can bring a lot of that stuff in and they're super friendly with it. So if you have a family who's super allergenic and they're scared just to death about their own snacks and stuff, bring them in. And if you're looking at them, keep them cool. There's tons of coolers on Amazon and everywhere else that you can keep powered and keep your food cold for a long time.
Julie, have you ever done that? How to bring food in?
I have not. The closest was when I was still breastfeeding my daughter, but that's a completely different topic.
I wonder, Jeff, your thought. So I've never done this until this most recent trip which was I rented a locker, and I wonder, could you have a locker or a cooler that fits into one of those lockers, and then you can just kind of stop in there as you go throughout the day, and like
great.
just like you said.
Great point.
That is a good point.
All,
That is a great
all
idea.
all four parks have lockers in the front of it. I think of the Epcot lockers right underneath the ball there, over behind the pin station. They have them at Animal Kingdom. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, a lot of those lockers are different sizes. Some of them are small, some of them are bigger. That's a great place to put a cooler, especially if you are running it on power or something. Just pop it in there and come back and get food as you need it. Those lockers are very underutilized these days because a lot of people carry bags.
Yeah,
I remember going there.
Before,
Yeah,
so.
I remember going there when I was younger. You couldn't get a locker sometimes because people would use them. But now, with the bag policy, everybody brings in a bag and just has a bag on the back for most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So the locker would be great option.
Nice. Okay, I think that was all the questions I had.
Yeah, that's the one thing I looked at the rundown sheet. I'm like, bringing your own food, like that's no fun. Like I have my big trip I'm planning in December, and like, okay, the cost of like going to dinner every night versus cooking my own meals. I'm like, we can go out to eat for 4 nights of the trip, and I keep talking myself up.
I agree with you 1,000%, John. I love to indulge at Disney. Even when I'm trying to eat clean, there's still great ways to indulge in protein and everything else. There's lots of great steaks and chicken and fish. But the one thing that I think a lot of people spend unnecessarily money on in the parks, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. Mickey bars and popcorn are great, but snacks are a great alternative to bring in yourself, whether it be, allergy-friendly snacks, like the topic of tonight, or just personal preference snacks, specific protein bars or whatever. Disney's great about that, allowing you to bring those things in. There's so many great options. So fill that bag full of snacks. It'll save you a few bucks.
Yeah, we didn't really talk much about picky eaters, but I'm already like our last Disney trip, my son would eat most anything, and now he will eat like 3 things. So I keep having to like think. I'm like literally thinking in my head right now, I'm gonna get a locker filled with his 3 things that he eats and go there before our meals. So it's gonna be awful. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Before I forget, go ahead.
Yep. No, I was gonna say, go ahead.
No, I was gonna wrap up. I'm sorry.
No, I was wanting you to wrap up.
Okay. Before I forget,
we nailed the ending.
Before I forget, Julie, if any of our watchers, what am I trying to say, viewers wants to contact you about booking a vacation, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at my email, julie@momentsofmagictravel.com is the easiest way.
And do you do Disney, other brands?
I do Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, and Disney Alani. And then I do Universal as well.
Awesome.
There we go.
So contact Julie that way.
So,
sorry.
Right there.
We got the Brady Bunch thing going, so she's down.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's really hard with a kitten on my lap to kind of mess with like the format. So whatever.
It's all good.
Yeah, he's having fun.
He is having fun. Anyway, so I guess that's gonna do it for this week. Or this episode. Again, more information, go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/Universe of Magic podcast. And then right after this episode premieres, we're gonna have 2 episodes by Alyssa. Are two short little, I don't know what you want to call them. We're calling, yes.
Can I give you my quick 30-second story about how I got evacuated off of Tron?
Yes.
I was watching your video. I was kind of curious.
Okay. Yes. So anyway,
you.
so one of the spoiler alert, one of the videos coming is just my tips on riding Tron. And so, but it happened like I was in a daze for a little while because I got evacuated off the ride. And it was a little uncomfortable to be stuck in that weird position for like 15 minutes. But I have to say, major props to the cast members. They were all incredible and trying to like make sure we were okay. And it was kind of cool to see the underground of Tron and stuff. It's like there's a little basement down there. Probably just where the technicians and stuff go. But they did say that if Tron breaks down, which is very rare, like they said that they hadn't had to do an evac in like a long time. So they all kind of were like, well, what do we do again? But they were so great about it. And they said it doesn't happen very often. And they do not have to clear the line because they can typically get it up and running very, very quickly. So they gave me like a free fast pass to come back. And by the time I had come back, like an hour later, it had been running and going and everything. So if you're ever in line for Tron and it breaks down, don't fret. Apparently it will be back up and running really, really quick.
Contrary to that, the oldest coaster, I remember my iPhone being dropped from Space Mountain and they had to meticulously grab the thing from the exit. Otherwise the ride would have shut down completely and it would have been a whole ride reset. So props to Disney Imagineering for that would have been
well,
would have been
I do have to say it was slightly terrifying because when you come back around, you're essentially jumping over a giant hole in the ground. So that was, I left that out of my little video, but that was a little terrifying. But they helped me and everything and got me over safely and everybody else too. But I don't mind heights when I'm strapped into something. But if there's a hole in the ground and I am not strapped into anything.
There's another episode that we should do on evacuations.
That's the only time I've ever been evacuated.
I got one. I've been evacuated off of Frozen. There's a certain Frozen song that I hate now because of that evacuation.
You just heard it over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh, for like 30 minutes.
Oh,
I wanted to yell, turn the blah blah song off, but you know.
That's awesome. All right, but anyway, I left that part out of my video coming up. But we're gonna talk more about that trip next full episode with Jessica Solomon. She's joining us so we can talk about the enchanting extras like the fireworks dessert party, the behind the scenes tour, all that good stuff. So
awesome.
Okay, I'm done.
So I think that does it. Let's rewind and do the transition correctly.
Sorry.
So for Julie, for Alyssa, for Jeff, I'm John. We will see you on the next episode.
You guys make it back.
Bye.